I've had friends tell me that won the Super Bowl, that winning the Super Bowl was the most empty feeling of their entire life. Mm-hmm. It's the journey to the Super Bowl that was the joy. Welcome to the Playbook. I'm David Meltzer here live at SoFi Stadium, the greatest stadium ever built. That quote right there got me kicked off of the board of directors of the Rose Bowl. They didn't like the fact that I said this was the best place that was ever built. You're still the granddaddy of them all, and I still love you. More importantly, Ryan Beckmann is in the house with the Playbook. Welcome to the Playbook, my friend. Thank you.
Great to be here.
So when I read your bio and learn about you and have known your friends, there's a saying that when you live by your mission, the commissions follow. Mm-hmm. And I'm someone, and it seems like you have made a similar journey to learn that, you know, commissions are great, but if you are only happy when you receive the commission instead of for the sake of what am I doing this, that the commissions follow. For you, that relationship between your mission and the commissions has changed throughout your career. How has that paralleled your mindset of for the sake of what?
Like you said, David, I had a very successful career in the RV business, made a lot of money. I had all the things. I won 40 under 40, but never felt right. I always had this hole inside of me, and all the things couldn't fill that hole. In my program, I try to fill a God-sized hole with everything but God. Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Repeat that for anyone.
I tried to fill a God-sized hole with everything but God. And it just never worked, right? So I would accumulate things and be miserable. And
how about buying things you don't need to impress people you don't like?
Yeah, I mean, that was how I lived
my life.
That was how I lived my life, right? Like, I needed attention from people, right? I if you liked me, I liked me. If you didn't like me, I didn't like me. And a lot of that stems from, I mean, I guess we can get back to video. So my story, I just started telling this part of my story recently, and it's a big part of it, ties into why I'm doing what I'm doing now. So my first memory in life, my parents are addicts. My whole family system is 17 out of 18 aunts and uncles. My first memory in life is asking my parents, saying, hey, I don't want to be here at 5, like, because they were using, and they shipped me to the neighbor, and I was sexually abused for 2 years consistently. So that skews your view on the world, relationships, what fulfills you. And then my mom left my dad, and we were homeless for about 2 years. But that created this thing in me to like control everything, right? Like, because my life was so out of control, I had to control whatever it was. So I became addicted to anything, sports, I excelled at athletics. And that only went so far. And when I lost that identity, I became addicted to work, right? But again, none of those things filled this hole inside of me. So it took me a long time to get sober. I famously, in my industry, lost everything, burned it down in my early 30s. It took me 7 years to get it right. I'm one of those people who had to make sure it was still the same way out there. A lot of field research, a lot of making sure things hadn't changed. And what changed for me, which is how these events came apart, is I was at a meeting and I told my story for the first time publicly to a bunch of strangers. And that wasn't me. Like, I hate doing that. I hate saying things like that in front of people. It was, for me, just a spiritual experience. And when I said the words, I looked around and I felt like, oh man, did I just do that? I want to get out of here, but there's a meeting. If anyone's familiar with AA, there's 150 people in there. I'm like, I'm not going to disrupt the meeting. So I get up to leave immediately when it's over. I'm like, I'm out of here. And this kid walks up to me, he's 18 years old. He says, hey, can I talk to you? Can I talk to you? And I said, yeah, absolutely. He said, well, I'm here in treatment on the druggy buddy, we call it. And I was going to leave. And I was on the way to the bathroom, but I heard you share your story. And it was the first time in my life I felt like somebody understood what I had gone through. And he's still sober to this day. That is many years later. And that, for me, created this sense of like using my pain for purpose, which is how these events all come together, right? Like, I've learned that the only thing that fulfills me is serving others. And I went through all of these painful experiences, and the ones I shared are not even the worst ones I went through.
Right.
But I went through those in a way to be able to help people see that they can get through the other side and have whatever they want. I mean, you know.
So, Ryan, there's an interesting difference between using your pain for purpose and making your purpose greater than your pain. Mm-hmm. And I went through that shift because I was molested at 9, had a I wanted to commit suicide in the fact of telling people I was bankrupt, right? Like that, my identity was tied to money that strong. And then never thought I'd ever tell anyone that I was molested at 9, never. And then I'm sitting in an interview with Sugar Ray Leonard, and he starts telling the story how he's on an interview with Todd Bridges. Todd Bridges starts talking about how he had the similar experience, and 1 in 4 men all have had the same experience. And on national TV with Todd Bridges, he does that. And then somehow my response was to do the same thing. And all of a sudden I sat in front of the camera going, holy shit. Like in my mind, I'm doing the interview with Sugar Ray Leonard, pretty big guys. Yep. And I'm sitting here going, and he's crying and I'm crying. And then I'm looking at the camera going, in my head, that same thing, like, when is this interview going to stop? And how am I going to explain this to my family? Right. And my friends. And now I'm less than again. And then the best thing happened with my bankruptcy and with this horrible experience, which, by the way, what resonated with me when you said, and these two things aren't even the worst that's happened to me. Yeah. Right. I remember Gary Vee telling me one of my, I can't believe I'm going to tell people I'm bankrupt, because he kept, Dave, just tell people the truth. They want to learn those lessons. This is what people want from you. And then he said, I'm like, I can't believe I did it. He goes, oh, just wait to see what you'll tell people. Like, when you get comfortable.
And it's funny, I had the same experience, like my identity become money, right? Yeah. And things, and at the time, losing everything was the worst thing that ever happened to me, right? Like I tried to commit suicide. There was, it led me on a very dark path. What I've learned through this is that, I never know until I know. So what I mean by that is, like, that turned out to be the best experience of my life. Right. Because I could have gone through life being miserable without having some catastrophic event to force me to change. Right. So constantly now I look at things, I don't really look at them as good or bad anymore. It's just something that happened. And eventually I will see the reason. And it took 8 years for me to learn that one. But
yeah. And I tell people all the time that true faith is when there's no evidence and the evidence is contrary to where you think you want to be or better. And you realize that there's something bigger than you protecting you. And it was those horrible experiences that have always made me who I am and given me the ability to do what I do. And I probably would not be alive but for losing everything.
Correct.
Same. Right. Absolutely. And because that whole, I remember, it's in my first book when I built my dream house in Rancho Santa Fe, and my wife wanted this house more than anything. And I remember the first night lying in bed, literally saying to myself, holy shit, I've never felt so empty in my life. Like, I worked so hard for this freaking house, the details of building a Rancho Santa, like it was exhausting, right? Every decision overload. And then it was all done. And I was like, this is the most empty feeling of my entire life, which I've had friends tell me that won the Super Bowl, that winning the Super Bowl was the most empty feeling of their entire life. It's the journey to the Super Bowl that was the joy.
Absolutely.
And it's a fleeting moment. Like, the instant you win, you get this huge rush, but then afterwards, and that's why there's so many drug addicts in those big stages.
Well, afterwards you're left with you.
Right.
Like, and for me, that was not a good place.
And you want that same feeling all the time, which is an impossible human experience, except for replica with drugs or alcohol. In the same context, our mindset shifts. And we come to this realization that when we're able and capable of helping other people, we feel our best. And that's what being of service or of value. And I was born into this. My mom purposely named me David Meltzer, which means beloved servant. Oh, wow. And when I wasn't a beloved servant, she'd Jewish guilt me and say, I named you this and you're not being this. And it never really resonated with me until I got older. But the other side is the more interesting thing with people like you. You are truly living your life in this mission. You have these tours, events, content to help other people. What's your relationship with receiving?
Not the best. I'm learning. I'm learning, right? And that still comes from that place of, do I deserve it? Right? Like, right now I'm in this, I was talking to my friend Dan.
That hit us.
Yeah. I was talking to Dan about this recently. Like, I get recognized sometimes places right now and stuff, and which is totally
crazy.
Like, to give some context, I just created these events 2 months ago. I had, I think, 5 posts on Instagram and nobody followed me. And now I have almost 100,000 within like 2 months. So, like, this is out of my world, out of my realm, and I feel like I don't belong. I feel like an imposter, even sitting up here, right? And so I'm learning how to receive those things. And Dan would be like, no, dude, there's a reason this is happening. There's a reason these people are coming to you, but it is difficult. Like,
yeah, where the reality sits into, I went to Puerto Rico to speak, and it was for EO, their national whatever. And the guy, when I got down there, the host, the head guy of the EO, immediately started to cry. And I've had this a few times in my life. And I was like, hey, sorry, were you expecting Gary Vee? Sorry to disappoint, bro. I'm still cashing the check, motherfucker. But you don't, like, you literally in your own mind, you're like, why the hell would this guy cry when I walk up? Or what, like, why would someone want, at the Aspire Tour, one of the greatest ego things ever is I do the diamond lunch and they line up for a half an hour to get my signature on my book and take my picture. Right. And I'm like, what the, like, I still not real. Well, this guy tells me that he was driving to drive off a cliff, and there's 2 mountains in Puerto Rico, and he's right in between the both. And he's listening to a podcast with Tom Billy and I on impact theory. And he said, whatever content it was in there made him pull over and change his mind.
wow.
And tells me he would not be, his kids came to thank me. Right. And it's overwhelming. And it's not the first time that similar things had happened. And there's another leg, because you're just starting with this 100,000 people. You get a video that does 40 million views, you don't know where that goes, because people are not only watching it, but you've been there on your couch when your wife's like, here, check this out. Right? I was just back there showing Leah a video about Capricorns, that I sent to my whole team, that says, here's the 3 things that Capricorns hate. So I sent it to my whole team. Mediocrity, just so you know. You have to prepare for this, though. And humility is a big part of what we have to deal with. And no matter how much we think we are, we're either humble or we're about to be. In even the short amount of time, have you struggled still with humility and taking control or ownership of that?
I want to say no, right? Just immediately, but I'm like, yeah, definitely. So the event we just did, I purposefully let go of control of it, and then kind of freaked out when things didn't go the way that I wanted them to go, which, and I'm not even sure it was a better or worse way, right? But it's just the way I wanted to go. So yeah, I definitely do. It's getting better though.
I talk about predisposition with wisdom and faith. So like I go in seeking wisdom and faith without the judgment or condition or evaluation of good or bad. I every day study the Tao, because I find either the Sanskrits of the Rules of Being Human, Course in Miracles, or the Tao are these simple ways to remind myself, kind of like the 12 steps. Here's what you have to practice every day so that you can live in humility. But it has to be a predisposition, because if you make it a disposition, meaning it's part of the day, it never works.
Okay.
And I see the 12 steps as a predisposition.
Absolutely.
For you, are you conscious of unconditional or non-negotiable predispositions that have helped you through those 8 years where you got used for today?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's even to say, so it's, for me, it is the 12 steps.
Yeah.
Like the 12 steps saved my life, and continue to save my life every day. And for people who aren't familiar with that, at this point, for me, it's just a way to continue to be better, to be a better human. And so I start my day on my knees, that I went through the 12 steps. And that looks like prayer and meditation and gratitude.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. And I have to, and gratitude for me is probably the biggest key to the shift in where I'm at today. Because for a long time, I looked at everything like, why did these things happen in a negative, without looking at the positive things, right? Like it's so easy to be, well, these things happen to me, but these great things also happen to me too. And when I start my day thinking, being grateful for people, everything changes. Everything changes.
Are there any of the 12 steps that doesn't resonate with you?
Oof. Oddly enough, not anymore, but this is a very recent one. So I struggled. I grew up in the Catholic Church. So my relationship with God or higher power was very fear-based, right? And then I go through these things in life, and that kind of furthers...
God, he's here.
I know. Furthers that.
Talking to me again.
furthered that belief of like a fear-based God, and then like I had this angry relationship with God. Even when I would get sober, you go through the steps like, do you believe in a power greater than yourself? And I'd be like, just automatically, yep, sure do. God, check that box, move on to the next one. What I learned was that I didn't. Like I'd been through programs and all the things, and there's a saying that says, a loving God. And I'd heard that 1,000 times, but I missed the loving part. I just always heard the God part. And it was like, my relationship with God was like what it was like with everyone else. I did all the talking and no listening. So that step in the 12 steps, it is just a very recent shift where I changed that, right? Where now I just listen. I just go to God with, talk to me, show me what I need to see, as opposed to me telling God what I think I need to see or what I want to see. So that was the one step that I struggled with for a long time in the 12 steps.
That's interesting, because be more interested than interesting is one of the early lessons that I learned. And that unconditional love that God talks about, when I was able to say I'm protected, promoted, loved, and perfected by God more than my mom, that was that loving God idea, which I struggled with, just the belief in God, because I don't know if you know this about me. Like when I lost everything, I lost my mom's house.
Oh, wow.
And that's the only reason I wanted to be rich. So I had to tell her I lost everything and she had to move.
Oof.
And my mom smirked at me when I was crying. And after she found out I was okay, my wife was okay, and the kids were okay, she's like, well, do you need money? I go, Mom, I don't think you heard me. I lost everything. You were moving. And she's like, I heard you. I just want to make sure you're okay. I love you. Wow. And I said, Mom, why am I being punished? And she said, God doesn't punish you. And I said, well, I don't believe in God. And that's when she smirked at me. I'm bawling. My basement had a basement that day. And she smirks at me and says, oh, sweetheart, you believe in God. You just believe in the wrong God. Oh, so I didn't believe in the loving God.
Yeah.
And that statement changed my life. So as much as we all have to work these 12 steps, and I truly believe we did. I grew up, by the way, one block. Is it Bob and Bob's house?
Yeah,
Bill,
yeah.
Bill and Bob?
Bill and Bob, yeah.
Yeah, one block on West Market Street in Akron, Ohio. Didn't even know it until I took Lee Steinberg during the Hall of Fame to go to the house. I didn't know who they were, where they lived, and realized how important 12 steps were to me. Mm-hmm. And understanding those were important. I always wondered, why are recovering drug addicts and alcoholics so successful? Because they're working the 12 steps. And I know a lot of coaches that use the 12 steps to apply to everyone. To that measure, if you only could teach one of the steps, what would it be?
Man, that is a very tough one. Probably the amends step.
Forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one I struggled with too, was forgiving people who had I felt like done the worst of the worst things to me. But that was for me, and that took me a long time to realize that forgiveness wasn't necessarily about forgiving that person in the sense of making it right with them or making it okay. It was forgiving them so that I could be okay and I could move on with life, as opposed to letting these things hold back. When I first went through my steps, there's a step where you basically tell everything to a stranger almost, right? Someone you just met. And I told my sponsor about being abused, right? The first time. And he said, okay, what's your part in it? And I was like, oh, excuse me? Like, what are you talking about? What is my part in it? And he said, your part is that you continue to let it hold you back and affect every person you talk to and touch to this day. And then he's like, you need to forgive that person so you stop bleeding on everyone else in your life. And so that's where the amends came. I made an amends to that person.
It's so powerful that, as much as I teach people to receive, I'm a gratitude guy. Mm-hmm. And one of the most significant changes in my life was I got to speak at Beverly Hills High when I was running Lee Steinberg. I parked my Ferrari in front of the school legally. Larry King and I were the keynotes. I spoke, gave the same speech that I normally did about gratitude. And as I was walking back to my Ferrari, some senior at Beverly Hills like, oh, there's the asshole with the Ferrari. And I got in my car and I'm still choked up with shame. 10 years later, I got asked to come back and speak. I'd been connected to goodness. I parked my Chevy Volt in the parking lot where it was supposed to be parked. I walked all the way, got on stage, keynoted. On the way, walked back with a whole bunch of kids asking me questions. The one kid says, "Hey, bye-bye, gratitude guy." I cried home, enjoy it, because it was quantitative.
Mm-hmm.
And it was forgiveness. I started to study, because I knew gratitude. I grew up with it. I just had to remember, and collect it. But it was the understanding, studying the Course in Miracles, forgiveness, just like receiving.
Mm-hmm.
They're very closely tied, that if you don't forgive yourself, you will not feel comfortable receiving. For me, the great lesson was stop cheating other people with a great feeling. So people offer me stuff all the time. Even now, I don't need anything. And I'm, oh, no, it's okay. Give it to somebody else. Oh, it's okay. Not anymore. I'm like, yeah, please, I can give it to someone else if I don't. But I'm not gonna lower your life by saying I'm gonna cheat you of your ability or capability of helping me. That's the greatest feeling.
Wow.
And so this forgiveness idea is one that I agree that I'd either start with the starting on my knees in gratitude or forgiveness. And I think if we had to shorten the steps, those would be the two that you could easily get by very well with your life if you were just gracious and forgiving.
Yeah, there's a part of the book where it talks about the forgiveness side, and I had to forgive my dad, right? And I tell
Don't we all?
yeah, right. And
including my kids.
It talks about praying for the people that hurt you. Like goes like actually starting your day and praying for the people that hurt you the most. And it was transformative for me. After 2 weeks, my view completely changed. You start from a place of understanding, empathy, even to the people that hurt you, that everyone's on their own path and has experienced things that I don't know about that led them to do the things they do, and who am I to judge?
Yeah, hurt people. So heal and pray for the healing of the hurt people, and they'll heal others as well. I use and have for years that line. When someone screws me over, cuts me off, where I used to flip them off, I need to be offended, angry, upset, interfere with my success, it's always, I pray for your happiness. And by the way, there's subtle ways to pray for people's happiness that you still can punish them. So let me quickly give you my advice. My dad gave, I would say people give you good advice and bad advice. This was good advice from my dad. He said, if you really don't like someone, then tell them, I pray for your happiness. May you have tons of employees and a lot of buildings filled with employees. Because you're just giving them tons of employees and overhead.
Yeah.
So you've cursed them without them knowing it. So you haven't hurt them intentionally. The tour.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm hopeful in that we're going to be a part of sharing in that experience. I believe in these live experiences, business development and post-production content, what you do for good, for the sake of helping other people. For you, this tour is taken off. I've never seen a tour take off so quickly. Just so you know, you must be way better than me at this, because it took me years. It took you 2 weeks. It took me 20 years to get it down. Where do you see this tour going? Because it is unlimited.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's wild because it wasn't something, it kind of fell into my lap, sort of. I mean, and I just keep walking through the doors that are opening. I don't know, ideally it's somewhere like this.
Yeah, right.
We led with our hearts in creating this event and made it about the experience. It's funny because you talked about that earlier, and we make it about an interactive experience where families come to me and write to me saying that was the best day of my kid's life. So this is the best day of my life. And we have, within few events, have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. We just did one in Utah on the same thing, from professional athletes that came with their kids and said, this was the coolest experience. My kid came to me and said, I would rather watch you do this, Dad, than play the actual sport. So for some context, we created these events for charity where they're hockey based, but we bring in personalities from like Jackass, Nitro Circus, all these other creators and stuff. And we do play a little bit of hockey, but we do things like we launch people off slingshots to try and score goals with them. And it's very fan interactive. It's like a big production. And we just raise money. That's what we do. We led by raising money for good causes. And Yeah, I mean, it was a 3-week turnaround from the idea to happening the first one, and we sold out an arena in Arizona on a Tuesday night with Game 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs on. So people were paying up to $250 to come to an event and watch hockey, but not watch professionals. And that for me was like, okay, well, maybe we can do this elsewhere. So yeah, it's quickly transforming into a North American tour. We have had cities in Europe reach out and ask. Yeah, it's just totally unique, and we make it about the people, not about the sport or about the people that are doing it. We make it about the people that are watching. And I think through that, the sky is the limit, right? Because we can fill a place like this hopefully one day.
And we will. It's done. It's done. It's done. Blessed to be here with a visionary for good, for hope, and for joy. Ryan Beckmann, it is certainly a pleasure.
Thank you.
For your last save. You are the ultimate goalie. Founder of the Ultimate Goalie Showdown. Come and join us across the country, soon to be the world, in the greatest stadium ever created. I'm David Meltzer. That's Ryan Beckmann. This is Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.